The question for decades was, is it possible to make an online system that looks and feels like cash, but is completely online? And the answer came in 2008 in Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. There were a few breakthrough ideas in this paper. The first breakthrough idea is that there aren't actually any coins, which sounds really weird. And a lot of people confuse this because it looks and feels like there are coins when you're on Bitcoin. It looks and feels like you're buying coins. But internally, there are no coins. All there are transactions moving value from place to place. And then the nodes that are running the system, right? So it's a network of nodes. The nodes that are running the system collect a bunch of transactions together, put them together in what's called a block, and then they try and sign the block. And if they succeed at signing the block, we call that mining. And when they succeed at doing that, they are given some value. That block then has some value, and they put that value into their address. And that value is the thing that's being passed around from place to place. So the transactions are nothing more in Bitcoin than orders like checks saying, please move some value from here to there. Right? It's just a collection of transactions into blocks. And here's a screenshot of section 2 of Satoshi's paper where he talks about transactions. And the key piece in here is that little box in there entitled hash. So Bitcoin's called a cryptocurrency because the entire system is wrapped in cryptography. And so all you really need to know about this is that there is a mathematical formula out there, or a family of mathematical formulas, where you can take all the numbers and all the words, all the value that sits in this transaction, right? Everything into a computer can be turned into a number, right? It's all internally is numbers. You can take all the numbers that make up the transaction. You can send them through a mathematical formula. And when I say math, just think adding. Just think you're going to take all the numbers in this transaction, you're just going to add them all together. And so we're going to get a number. And we're going to truncate the bottom few digits of this number, maybe the last, 42 digits. And so the odds of you having another transaction that has exactly that same value in the end is pretty much astronomical. And truly, it actually is, in real life, astronomical. It's like picking the atom on the grain of sand on the planet surrounding one of the stars somewhere in the universe. That level of astronomic. And I'm going to use the word cryptographically secure now and then, and all that really means is that given the number, given what's called the hash value, you have no chance of turning it around and putting it back into its original parts, right? You can't take a hash value and turn it into a transaction. That's impossible. But anyone can take a transaction and turn it into a hash value. That's easy. And the other thing in this diagram to note is that instead of coins bouncing around, what you really have here is accounts. It shows up on here as owner zero signature and over one's private key and whatnot. But the key idea that you need to understand is that you put value into an account. And an account is another thing from cryptography. It's a private and public key pair. And I'm specifically not going to try and explain how this works, but just take for my word that it's possible to create a set of numbers. One's a private key and one's a public key. You can tell the world the public key, and they can use it to cryptographically secure anything they want, any message, and that the only person in the universe who will be able to read that message is you with the private key. Or if you give them your public key and they sign a known message out there, you're the only person in the universe that can unsign the message. Right? That's really what it comes down to. But you don't have to remember all that. All you need to understand is that everyone who has any value in Bitcoin has one or more accounts that hold the value. Right? And the transactions are just moving value from account to account. All right, and that's very well and good, but that doesn't solve the double spend problem. The big breakthrough idea to solve the double spend problem was the blockchain. So a blockchain is a cryptographically secure, write-only ordered list of transactions. Usually I don't like to read slides, but those are keywords there. So it's a list of every transaction that has ever taken place from the beginning of time in Bitcoin. So every one of those transactions has an order to it, and it's write-only, which means once it's written, it can't be changed. That's kind of different out there. So once we believe that this set of transactions has been published to the world, no one can change it. It is forevermore set in stone, right? Or better than stone, because stone can be rechiseled. This can never be rechiseled. You can't use any whiteout. Once it's been published, it has been published, and it will forevermore remain the same. So that shows up in the paper as section 3 called timestamp server, right? But that's the key idea, is to build up this chain of blocks. And a block is nothing more than a collection of transactions where the block has been hashed, so we know it's cryptographically secure, and that hash includes the hash of the previous block, and therefore every block is in a chain. Every block has a what we'd call a pointer to the previous block. And so if you believe the latest block, it points to the last block, which points to the block before that and the block before that, until it gets to the very, very first block that was published way back in 2008 or 2009. And then the question is, how do you sign one of these blocks? Who gets to sign it? And how do you sign it? And that's breakthrough idea number 3, which was the proof of work algorithm, which Satoshi pulled out from somewhere else. Someone else had invented this for some other purpose, and Satoshi reused it for this idea of signing the blocks. So the keywords here are decide. So again, kind of like email and the web and the internet, no one's in charge here. There is no PayPal, no Citibank, no Fed to point and say, you sign the next block. So everyone who's running the Bitcoin network, again, they're all called nodes. Everyone who's running a node is trying to sign the next block. They simply pick randomly whichever transactions they want, they throw them in a block, and then they run an algorithm to try and sign the block. What's really fascinating here is that some of the people running the nodes are bad guys. Some of the people running the nodes want to break the system. Some want to steal the coins. Some just want to create havoc. But because this proof of work algorithm exists, they can't just do what they want. They have to play along with this algorithm, with this way the system works. And because we don't trust that every node in this system is a good guy, it's really hard to find an algorithm that comes to a consensus on which is the next block. And consensus is a keyword used in the crypto community. And so again, now this is section 4 of the paper, and the little diagram shows up here. But the key part is, how does this proof of work algorithm work? And again, it comes back to cryptography. So I explained the hash really quickly before. So just imagine that you take the values in the block, which is just the values in the transaction, and you throw them through that algorithm that adds up all the numbers. And it's a little more complicated than that, but not much. No, it's actually pretty close to that. And we're going to drop all the digits except the last 16, let's say. Right? And the transactions are large, so we're going to get a very large number when we sum up all the values. Now, proof of work simply says that you're also going to pick a random number and throw it in the block. Right? We call that a nonce, as in not once. You're going to throw that in. You're just going to pick any number you want. It's going to be a big number. It's going to be like, pick a sand grain on a beach on the earth somewhere. That size number. All right, so you pick the number, you hash the block, and if the first 5 digits, if the leftmost 5 digits happen to be zeros, well, then you're done. You have proven that you're able to sign the block. You can broadcast that out to all the nodes, and they will all believe you. And if the first 5 digits aren't 0, well, then you pick another value, stick that in the nonce field, try again, hash it again, and try again. And in reality, yeah, this is done something on the order of 1 billion trillion times a second around the world now. This is where all that energy is getting used up, trying to guess which grain of sand on which beach is the right grain of sand in order to get 5 zeros to start out with. Right? And a lot of grains will do it. There's a lot of beach sand out there. But it does take millions of trillions of tries to find a value. And then just to make sure that this happens on a periodic basis, how many zeros you need? Well, that changes every once in a while, right? Every day or two, they change how many zeros are needed depending on how fast the blocks are signed. Bitcoin is trying to sign them every 10 minutes. That's all stuck in the algorithm, right? That's all stuck in the code. The nodes have no choice but to follow that algorithm. What's interesting about this network is that anyone who wants can join the network. Anyone can join in, set up a node, download all the transactions that have ever happened before from the beginning of time. With that, they can sign a block, No one is in charge of this. There is no Bitcoin company. We don't know who Satoshi is. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's in hiding. Maybe he never existed. Maybe it was a bunch of people who did this together. We don't know. There is no one in charge. Some of the nodes out there may be malicious. Some of them are malicious. We know that for a fact. And yet, despite all that, the system itself as a whole is trustworthy and is trusted with billions of dollars of value. Okay, but we're not done with the breakthrough ideas, because who would run the nodes, right? Why? What is the incentive? What is the reason why anyone would want to run a node? It's all well and good. You want to own the value if it's worth something, but why do you want to do any work in order to get there? And so Satoshi came up with this answer too, which is two things. So the first incentive is that the miners are paid to run nodes. So whoever signs the blocks gets the value. I said there's no coins in this system. The only place that new value is created is by signing blocks. Whoever signs a block, there's an address that's also put into the block, and that address gets new value for signing the block. And every transaction has a fee associated with it. So what's not clear on here, what I haven't talked about, is the fact that Bitcoins are divisible into 100 million increments, right? We call those Satoshis. And so you can pay a few Satoshis to have your transaction processed. And there's a whole market around that. So if you want your transaction to be processed quicker, you pay a little bit more transaction fees. Whoever signed the block gets all the transaction fees for all the transactions that they put in there. Now, to get the value out of this system, some of the nodes are running exchanges. Some of the nodes are running a system where you can pay them dollars or euros or yen or pounds or any other fiat currency. And in exchange, they'll let you buy cryptocurrency, or they'll sell you cryptocurrency for fiat currencies. And lastly, the last big idea is not necessarily required, but it's one that Satoshi put there anyway, which is that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in existence, ever, for the history of mankind. So the way he did this is to say that for the first 210,000 blocks, whoever mines the blocks gets 50 Bitcoins. For the next 210,000 blocks, the miner gets 25 Bitcoins. And then 12 and a half, and then 6 and a quarter, and then 3 and change. Eventually, it runs out and it's 0. Eventually, the miners will still work the system just to get the transaction fees, but they won't be competing for what today is 6 and a quarter Bitcoins, which is $75,000 or so. The key reason that Satoshi added this into the Bitcoin paper was to create scarcity, to try and create value in the system. But the other one is, again, back to the libertarian ideals. It avoids infinite inflation of the currency. It avoids having more and more and more Bitcoin produced, lowering the value of each of the Bitcoins. So as of today, about 85% of all the Bitcoins that will ever be mined have been mined, but it's going to take to about 2040 until we get to a zero reward, as I call it, per block. So going way back to the question about what's money, where does Bitcoin fall into the hierarchy of money? And the answer is that the techno-libertarians, the people who created Bitcoin and made it popular, were hoping that it would be considered a currency. They'd be hoping that it would just sit there in the world just like paper money and be handed around just like cash across the internet. But unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for us, that's not what happened. Instead, the governments of the world, one by one, and they're not all done doing this yet, but the US government said, no, it's not a currency. It's an asset. It's the equivalent of you owning a fund. And so it falls way down here on the hierarchy. So if you think about those exchanges, you can take your bank deposits and you can buy Bitcoin with them. And then those exchanges will let you sell your Bitcoin back for bank deposits. So you're back into the hierarchy of trust, where you're really just trading something for bank deposits. And one thing that Satoshi probably did not predict back in 2008, it wasn't in any of the early talks, was whether or not the value of Bitcoin would be stable. So he thought the scarcity would create more and more value over time. That's deflationary, and so the value of Bitcoin should go up. But I don't think he expected it to be as volatile as it is. And in the next talk, we'll talk about what it means to invest in crypto and how that all works.